Welcome everyone, Costini here with a discussion about the French in Age of Empires 4 and their rise to dominance in 1v1 multiplayer. Yes, dominance. I made a civilization tier list before where I put the Rus and the French as the top two civilizations in the game, S tier. I may have been a bit wrong about how powerful the French are because they have proven to be considerably more powerful than I actually believed that they would be. And this is the point of this video. The French are incredibly potent in 1v1, quite capable of defeating anyone else. The only ones that can really hold their own are the English because of their strong defensive bonuses, and the Rus because of their very strong Dark Age economy with their ability to get free gold by killing animals. So the Rus and the English are quite strong there. The HRE may compete with them if you can make the game drag on, but unless that particular scenario happens, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And those are the English, the Rus, and the HRE are pretty good civilizations. Everyone else is just going to fall behind the mighty French war machine. The French have a strong economy and a very strong military, especially early on. In fact, they probably have the strongest military early on due to their access to knights in the feudal age and how powerful their unique knights are. So with that in mind, let's talk about the French. What do they have that makes them so strong? So if we look at their civilization bonuses, they get faster villager production. Forget the scout production, that's not really relevant, but faster villager production. So 10% in Dark Age, 15% in Feudal, 20% in Castle and Imperial. So that means you get more villagers than anyone else early on, which means your economy is very strong. It's not necessarily as strong in the Dark Age or even the Feudal Age as the Rus or the HRE, but it's certainly able to compete with those two factions who do have very strong economic bonus. Free gold for the Rus, 40% worker capabilities for the HRE with the Prelate. Then economic technology is 30% cheaper. This doesn't matter for the Dark Age, nor really most of the Feudal Age. It does matter to a degree for late Feudal and certainly Castle and Imperial Age. It does save quite a bit of money. Then very important for the Dark Age, resource drop-off buildings 25 wood cheaper. This means that you need less wood for your mills, your lumber camps, your mining camps. Means you don't have to put lumberjacks as early as any other faction in the game. You can delay that. You can get, say, oh, I'll get 9 villager on food, 3 on gold, then put 3 more on food. That's what I personally do, unless I'm on a water map, and I'm not fond of playing on water maps, I can tell you for a fact. And then you can worry about wood. So the fact that means you get more food and gold. You can focus more on food and gold. That gives you economic advantage and really fits in nicely with your military. Then melee damage techs are researched for free. You get the blacksmith, you get melee damage techs for free for every age. Pretty nice, right? So that means your knights, which are already going to be powerful by default, are even more powerful because they get a damage upgrade if you just get the blacksmith and you advance in age or whatever. Like you put the blacksmith feudal age, you're gonna get the first melee damage tech for free. Then when you get castle age, you get that as well, and imperial age as well. So that's pretty powerful. But then we have to look at their military because it's not the economic bonuses that really make them strong. It's their military bonuses. Their military bonuses start with their feudal age landmark, the School of Cavalry. The School of Cavalry acts as a stable, and all of your stables produce units 20% faster. So with this landmark, you basically get a free stable. You don't have to spend the wood to get the stable, and it just acts as a faster and better stable. Now, for the vast majority of civilizations, you can only start building a stable after you get to the feudal age. Starting the feudal age with one is incredibly powerful. I believe the Mongols are the only ones who get the ability to have a stable in the Dark Age. And they're the exception, and they have their own issues as a civilization. The French just get a stable from the very start of the feudal age, and they can just start training knights immediately. Even ignoring anything else about the particulars of knights, the fact that you can train knights that quickly means you have a great deal of power, means you have a great deal of agency, means that you're incentivized to get to the feudal age as quickly as possible and get knights as quickly as possible so you can harass the enemy. The enemy on many maps is not going to have the ability to wall off, certainly not that early, because if you spend the money on wood, if you put your workers on wood, you're going to be slower on food and gold. Now, if you can wall off completely, then that's worth it. But on many maps, open maps, that's going to be difficult. So the French can harass just due to this landmark giving them 20% faster stable and it being a stable itself. Like, you have faster stables than anyone else. And knights, any knights will beat equivalent spearmen. Like, feudal age knights will beat feudal age spearmen regardless of upgrades. Castle age knights will beat castle age spearmen. That's a fact that has to be acknowledged as well. It takes an enormous amount of spearmen to beat knights. That's another factor as well. But it doesn't stop there. Then you have to worry about what those royal knights, the French knights, can do. So the royal knights can gain bonus damage for 3 seconds after charging. So they're regular knights, but they also gain bonus damage for 3 seconds after charging. So for those 3 seconds, for 1-2 attacks, I'd say, they're doing extra damage. What that means is, let's say you have French knights against Rus knights. The French knights are going to win in every engagement with equal numbers, equal resources, because they just have that damage bonus. But that's not the end of it, right? That's not the end of it, unfortunately. That alone would make them incredibly powerful. But then they have the Chivalry Upgrade. The Chivalry Upgrade makes it so that Royal Knights regenerate 1 HP for every second out of combat. Now, if your knight is incredibly damaged, it's going to take a long time. But what this really helps them with, in terms of doing, it really helps with their raiding, because it means they can take a hit, get out, regenerate, go back in, regenerate, go back in. And it means, like, say you're fighting as Rus against the French, you may be able to push him back with your own knights, or as any civ, like, you can hold them off, but it doesn't matter because they'll go out, right? They'll get their HP back in, they'll run in circles around you until they regenerate their HP, and once they do, they're just going to go back in, and you have no way of regenerating your own HP as most civilizations in the feudal age until you get to castle age. Like, obviously longbowmen have the camp, which does help them regenerate HP. This is the French version of the longbowman campfire, and this is significantly better because you don't need to stand in a position. It just happens out of combat. You can be running with an entire army on your tail. As long as you're not in combat, you regenerate HP. Incredibly powerful and cheap upgrade. And this is the reason. This is one of the main reasons that the French are so dominant. They have economic bonuses, they have cheaper resource buildings, they have knights that gain a damage bonus, and on top of that, they regenerate HP. When you add all of this together, this is what makes the French so powerful, and why you end up seeing quite a few French mirror matches where it's just like, who can do this better? Who can do this kind of harassment and map control better? Best case scenario for most civilizations, best case scenario that you can get in, like say you're playing the English or the HRE, you can turtle up. Okay, you turtle up. You build a wall, as happened in this particular match that I'm showing here. He built a wall, he was in a good position. I got the transport and I was able to get past his defensive, but he was able, even with me breaching that wall, to build defenses and make it so that it was very difficult for me to attack him. But it didn't matter, because he spent resources on that and I did damage his economy, and then I came back in later on with rams and with castle age knights. I was able to control the flow of the battle. I had the initiative. If you're put in a position where you have to abandon map control in Age of Empires in general, in 2 and 4, if you're abandoning map control, if you're forced to abandon map control, then you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. Your opponent is going to have better access to more resources, especially food. That's going to matter. He's going to be able to run around the circles. He's not going to be pressured, because when you're pressured, when you're being harassed, it does take away your focus. You're less effective at getting your production up. So all of these things, when you put all of these things together, it just makes the French incredibly powerful. So best case scenario, when you're dealing with the French, you turtle up, you deny him his ability to harass. Okay, then he's just going to focus on his economy. He'll come with rams and spearmen and castle age knights, and he'll destroy you because he's going to have a better economy than you will. And worst case scenario is he just kills your workers, harasses you, denies you resources, and it's very difficult to overcome that. That's the problem. right now, that there is no easy way of countering that you're losing control, you're losing the initiative, you don't have agency, the French do have agency, and so the French end up being far more powerful in 1v1. But it doesn't end there. Then you have the final upgrade, if you will, for the French, cantled saddles, increases Royal Knight bonus damage after a charge by 10. So after you do a charge with this upgrade in the Castle Age, you're doing 10 extra damage thanks to this upgrade. So that means your knights are even better than they were before, and they're already very, very powerful. You add it all up, it's like you either lose to the French in the Feudal Age, or even if you don't lose, you've given him all that initiative, all that agency. He's gonna wait, he's gonna build knights, he's gonna get to Castle Age, he's gonna get this upgrade, he's gonna get other upgrades, he's gonna get maybe longbowmen, maybe spearmen, whatever. He's gonna show up with rams, maybe show up with siege, and he's going to destroy you. This is the problem right now in terms of dealing with the French, and this is why the French are so dominant right now in multiplayer. Of course, it's possible to counter it. The English are really good at turtling up, and if you just let them build a proper base, castles, get town centers, then they can overcome that, because it's difficult to attack an English base that's swarming with longbows. I recommend mangonels, but you lose the initiative, and that's a really horrible thing to happen to you. Like, if you're playing as a non-French faction, or if you're playing not as the French or the Rus, then you're just going to be bottled up in your base and hoping that either your opponent makes a mistake, or you're able to beat the blockade of your base. If you can drive him to his base. He's not going to have anything to fall back on, but that kind of map dominance is very difficult to overcome. And this is a problem. This is a problem balance. I'm pretty sure Relic did not intend for the French to become the dominant faction in 1v1 multiplayer. Pretty certain this is not their intention. How would I fix it is the question. Well, I certainly believe, personally, I believe that when it comes down to it, Chivalry should be moved to the Castle Age. Or moved altogether, to be honest. Like, move it to the Castle Age, because then, yeah, you get a regen of HP in combat, but, people have monks at that point, so it's a fair fight. So just removing that would even things out a bit, but then there's still the fact that they have early knights that are better than anyone else, and knights in general are the best unit in the game. There needs to be a discussion about the design of the French faction. You can't just remove early knights, right? That would break the faction, so to speak, because the French are built around these cavalry. Their landmark is based around the idea that you're going to use it for early knights. So they need to have those royal knights, but how do you balance that out? That's a very difficult question. Knights are just very powerful right now in the game. Very difficult to deal with in general, at least early on in Feudal Age and even in Castle Age. They're the best Feudal Age and Castle Age units. They're overcome by mass range units in Imperial Age and artillery, but until that point they are the best units. I think maybe there's a point to be had about spearmen potentially needing a buff, because right now I feel spearmen are a bit too weak. Their knights trade extremely well against spearmen. It could take 3 spearmen to kill a knight, especially one with some upgrades. It can be very difficult, and the knight can always just run away anyway. So I think spearmen certainly could potentially use a buff against cavalry to do better. Maybe some damage resistance specifically against cavalry. I don't know. That's what I feel about it. I think a big part of the problem is just how weak spearmen are against knights. They're really designed to deal with horsemen. They're not really designed to deal with knights. But then Relic went there anyway and put knights for 2 factions, for the Rus and the French. They put them in the Feudal Age, which gives those 2 factions a significant advantage. But just to mention this, the Rus are still an incredibly powerful faction. They're just weaker than the French at the moment. They're still stronger than anyone else, and that's something worth saying. They do struggle, however, against the French because of the specifics of the French. Anyway, Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.